Support Ollie. Support Luke. Support WrestleTalk. Or better yet, take just a moment, stop what you're doing, and bask in their glory.
Support WrestleTalk!
Could Matt Riddle be a future Universal WWE Champion? I am Luke Owen, and this week I'm joined by SP3 from True Heel Heat. Hey, man.
Hey, what's going on, good brother? I'll do my usual intro. It's me, your True Heel Phenom, SP3. I am very happy to be with you.
Oh, God. I mean, I didn't want to step on your toes and do your intro for you. I thought I'd let you, give you the floor and do it yourself.
I appreciate that.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. For any of our viewers who are unfamiliar with your work, who are you? What is an SP3 and what is True Heel Heat?
Well, SP3 is my initials. My name is Sidney Polar III, and True Heel Heat is a wrestling podcast and YouTube channel. It's basically by wrestling fans for wrestling fans. We're very an unfiltered type of podcast. I do it with my co-host, the resident True Heel alcoholic, top guy JJ, and the princess of all the True Heels, Miss Chrissy Love, and we talk about everything going on in the world of wrestling from all over WWE. AEW, New Japan, Ring of Honor. We do show reviews on our YouTube channel, as well as countdowns, as well as going back in time to the Monday Night Wars with True Rewind, which is one of my personal favorites.
Amazing stuff. There's a link for that down in the video description. Go and support their channel. Very, very good stuff, man. As I messaged you the other day, I laughed my ass off at your reaction to New Japan coming back.
It was a euphoric sense, like the world, the balance of the wrestling world was finally there. I felt like Thanos.
Cool. Right. So we'll dive into one of the big bits of news this week. So Matt Riddle, we're not going to touch upon the allegations that have been made against Matt Riddle. He's made his statements. He's made various statements on this. I even think WWE have made a statement on it as well. It's been reported that they knew of these allegations before they even signed him. So we're not going to touch upon those here. What we are going to touch upon, though, is this Wrestling News article that was posted up that said that Vince McMahon, of all people, is really high on Matt Riddle, no pun intended. The quote from WrestlingNews.co is that Vince likes guys like Shawn Michaels who have that rebel mentality, and he sees some of Shawn in Matt Riddle. Matt can rub people the wrong way, but he's a good guy and will do great when Vince calls him up. I think he's a future world champion. Vince will try and tweak him, but his personality will get him far. And we had those reports earlier in the year that Matt Riddle was sort of rubbing people the wrong way backstage. There was the Brock Lesnar stuff. There was the Goldberg stuff. But as Ollie said on the WrestleTalk News recently, like and I agree with him here, those do feel like Paul Heyman planted stories. That's Paul Heyman being like, hey, I'm going to stir this pot a little bit and get his name out there. But according to, this new report, Vince really likes Matt Riddle.
I'm not really I wasn't that surprised by that, to be honest with you, because like the one thing that I felt was like missing for a while with NXT going up against AEW was a personality and someone who was like good on promos and just made you laugh. It was just like they were missing that entertainment. It was always great matches on NXT, but they were missing that entertainment factor. And then I remember it like it was just yesterday. A Matt Riddle backstage promo when they first introduced the Broserweights and that whole story about him and Pete Dunne meeting. I was like, this is it. This is the personality that NXT needed. And then week after week with the Broserweight segments, he showed his personality even more. And I think that's where Vince McMahon really caught like the personality and really was like, okay, I think I can make something with this guy.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I was slightly surprised by this because I thought if there's someone that is not a Vince McMahon type, it's Matt Riddle. And I kind of got that feeling from the SmackDown segment we got last week, which was, it felt very... So Bruce Pritchard told this story on his podcast that when Punk was starting to go on to Raw and SmackDown and stuff away from ECW, Pritchard sat him down and was because Vince didn't get Punk. And one of the things he didn't get was that, well, he's got lots of tattoos. So Bruce had to sit down with Punk and be like, what are your tattoos? Because we need to make a character. So maybe your character is in your tattoos. And then I always thought about this anytime a new talent comes up and it's just like, this is your thing now. And that SmackDown promo where they're like, you don't wear shoes. That's your thing now. Why don't you wear? Let's not focus on the fact you're a badass MMA fighter. Let's talk about you don't wear shoes. That's weird.
A black belt in jiu-jitsu. We're talking about him getting frostbite at 7 years old.
Yeah. So I was slightly concerned by that, but like this report, does kind of make me a little bit more confident because I do like Matt Riddle as a wrestler, and he was very nice. The times that I have met him, he's been very nice to me as well. So just to say that out on the record, I don't know anything else about the other stuff, but he was very nice to me when I met him. But can you see him being a Universal Champion on SmackDown?
I mean, if this was a year ago, I probably would be like in the boat of I don't know. And then especially after seeing that SmackDown promo, I was cringing for a lot of that because I was like, you can't script Matt Riddle. Like Matt Riddle's character it's just that. He's chill. He doesn't wear shoes. He's a bad MMA fighter. He's a great MMA fighter, and he could just beat up anybody. That's the character. Like I don't understand why he needs to have frostbite, and that's the reason why he doesn't have shoes. And it was very weird and off-putting. But like I said, like his personality shines through, and his ability to kind of his improvisation, I think, is going to be the thing that really pushes him forward and the reason why Vince is going to love him. And I can't see him as a Universal Champion. I mean, to be fair, we set the bar low this year with Goldberg followed by Braun Strowman, and no offense to either character. Goldberg's a great character on his own, especially since he's come back as the Terminator grandpa in 2017. And Braun Strowman is a great performer, but it's just those two reigns back to back have been very off-putting for the Universal title. So something like Matt Riddle is something fresh. I think it would be cool.
And I mean, talk about a conflict of styles as well. Seeing Matt Riddle going up against Braun Strowman does feel like, and it's what I find exciting about all this is, this possibility is that we could look at Matt Riddle versus AJ Styles. Seems like pretty much that's a made feud, like him versus Drew Gulak versus Daniel Bryan versus Cesaro versus Shinsuke Nakamura. There's like a really good like mid card group that he can work with on SmackDown. But actually, like him versus Braun or him versus Bray, like The Fiend versus Matt Riddle, like there's something very interesting about that, particularly because I can see The Fiend getting the title back once we, in the sort of third chapter of this Braun Strowman trilogy, The Fiend recaptures the Universal Championship from him. And like Matt versus The Fiend, it's very, I don't know, like, if you handed to me in a piece of paper, it's like, book this feud, I'd be like, I don't know. I have literally no idea how you'll book this. But as a fan, I'm like, I'd really be interested to see that.
Like that's just so like polar opposite characters. You have this over the top Freddy Krueger like monster versus the chill guy who's like a surfer who's smoking in the backyard behind the bleachers. So it's like a character that's based in reality versus a character that's totally not. So I think that would just be great. And honestly, the match I want to see on SmackDown is Matt Riddle versus Roman Reigns, because I think that those two would tear it up in the ring.
Yeah, do you know what? As Roman's been gone so long, I didn't even think about that. But you're right. Yeah, that's really good. I love that. Yeah, Matt versus Roman. Because like I thought Roman did some really great stuff in that Survivor Series. The match the last year, the 5-on-5-on-5 was really awesome. That final sequence with him and Keith Lee. Oh, it was so great. Absolutely brilliant. Also, we haven't had a chance to say this on the record yet, but shout out to my boy Keith Lee.
Yes,
double champion. So
First
happy
ever double champ.
So you love to see it. Very happy with that. So I mean, I could see if Vince is high on Matt at the moment, again, no pun intended. If Vince is high on Matt at the moment, I could definitely see them going quite far with him this year. There's a lot of NXT call-ups that that come up without the fanfare of Vince being behind them. And they take a little while to like just get onto the boiling plate and sort of heat up a little bit. But if you're coming in with Vince already behind you, and if Pritchard can sort of work with Matt Riddle to kind of like really cultivate this character out of him that Vince likes. So apparently Vince loved the promo from Friday. I know, like, you know, you said you cringed watching it. Same here. But Vince loved it. And if Vince is into something, then we're going to see more of it. So, yeah, I could certainly see, maybe not this. I mean, maybe it could be this year. I don't know. But like, I could see a lot of Matt Riddle on TV this year.
And I think that SmackDown's like a great place for him. Like and I love the Wednesday night war with AEW and NXT, but the best match I saw last week was Matt Riddle versus John Morrison. That was insane. I was like, I've never seen these moves in succession in a WWE main roster match in quite some time. And SmackDown has been delivering like quality TV matchups with like that. You had Gulak and Styles this past week. You had Styles and Bryan. So like you said, all those guys on SmackDown are proper guys for him to work with. And I think that he can get that push forward to the Universal Championship and to the main event scene. Like, we're getting excited just talking about Riddle versus Roman and Riddle versus Fiend. Like, these matchups that we didn't even think were dream matchups a year ago. It's crazy to kind of think about.
And then my boy Keith's coming up to the main roster. And my boy versus Matt Riddle.
I am ready for Adam Cole to come to the main roster. I think that's like the next move. I was like, if he stays on NXT, the only thing forward is to break up Undisputed Era, and I don't want that to happen. I want it to be on the main roster, so I think Matt Riddle's the next one to get called up.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's funny enough, we were talking about this in a meeting, the morning meetings we have with the team, and we were talking about, like, you know, is Keith Lee going to win? This was before the spoiler came out that he was, and I said, I can see Keith winning next week, and Karrion Kross's message of time's up is not about him as champion; it's his time in NXT. And someone posted it up on Twitter today, man, like, if Drew McIntyre retains at SummerSlam and the Undisputed Era appear and attack him, you know, 3 years?
Yep.
3 years. And they just recreate that angle from Brooklyn. I'm all in for that as well, because Drew's going to need some top level heels if he beats Randy Orton at SummerSlam, which I 100% think he should.
Absolutely. I mean, Randy Orton is on the run of a lifetime, and that's saying something for a guy that's been around 20 years. But this is his best work ever, and especially this feud with Edge and his promo work. But yeah, I agree with you. Drew McIntyre is on too good of a run. Like, this is the best babyface push that we've seen since like John Cena. I would say Roman, but that wasn't that successful. But but I just really like Drew as WWE champion. And I think he should beat Randy Orton. But I think if Undisputed Era does debut, Adam Cole needs to be the next WWE champion, and that's how WWE keeps him under them.
Absolutely. So we can't go over the AEW or NXT ratings because we're recording this before they come out. So we won't make predictions either. Like I said last week with Denise, I'm very, very interested to see this week, though. I can see NXT picking up a third win in a row, particularly because you had that the appeal of potential, you know, of someone who's going to become a double champion. Like, you know, that's always going to be a draw. And I do think that the leak was a planned leak. I think that the guy in the crowd posting up that image was 100% intentional, because it just got people talking about that. Oh my God, Keith's going to win the NXT championship next week. I've now got to watch this. It's the Mick Foley. God, that's going to put butts in seats. You tell people the result, people change the channel and check it out. I can see NXT picking up the win again this week.
It's so true, though. Like, that's the first thing that I thought of. I was like, is WWE using their own, like, something that the other company worked against them? They're going to use it in their favor and leak a spoiler. That's exactly what I thought. I was like, this is actually a smart move, because I did predict Keith Lee to like win the match against Adam Cole, because I felt that the first win that NXT got over AEW was in part to Keith Lee. I feel like Keith Lee is this star that they've cultivated ever since his run at Survivor Series, and they've kept building and building momentum for him. A lot of people wanted him to get the shot at Adam Cole back when Finn Balor got the shot, and I think it was like a triple threat match with them, those two, and like one other person, and Finn Balor won, and everybody was disappointed. Like, oh my God, we want Keith Lee, we want Keith Lee. But it was like that was the smart move because it made people want it more. And I felt like the building it around them, really building this whole build up to this double championship matchup around Keith Lee's journey is the reason why they've been winning the last couple of weeks. And I think that this week is going to be no different. NXT is going to win again.
What did you make of the Great American Bash and Fighter Fest Night 2?
I enjoyed both shows. Both shows were really good. Over the last 2 weeks, we've seen great wrestling on Wednesday night. I really enjoyed the Great American Bash for the street fight, the opening. That was like different, and they like really wanted to grab your attention right off the bat with like Mia Yim attacking Candice LeRae and like the entrance and the opening minutes of the show. So that was fun. I really enjoyed Swerve versus Johnny Gargano. That was like a real technical wrestling type of matchup with Swerve. It's just one of the smoothest guys in the ring in professional wrestling today. And I was like, I like this match. I really want to like it, but what does it do for Swerve? Like, I want something for Swerve. I want them to do something. But I did like the commentary kind of saying he beat Santos Escobar. He's the only guy that has a victory over him. I did like them adding that. So at least it gives me something to like hold on to. And then I really enjoyed the main event, but I just felt that AEW was the stronger show this week. AEW just that 8-man tag. That's like I can talk about everything on AEW, but that 8-man tag is one of the best TV wrestling matches of 2020.
It was an insane match. Like, you know, Ollie and I I couldn't shut up about how much I loved that match. But yeah, like you, I really enjoyed Great American Bash. I thought the Night 2 was really, really good. The Street Fight was a lot of fun. Scott, like Isaiah Swerve Scott, it's really fun. I remember me and Laurie, when we used to do the NXT reviews back in the day before it went to USA Network, it was during their prospect tournament thing that they did. And Scott was in that tournament. And it's one of the worst performing NXT videos we've ever done. But I was like, he is on the thumbnail. Isaiah Scott, and the title is "The Future of NXT." I was like, that's exactly what it is. One of the worst performing videos we've ever done. But I was flying the flag for him. I was like, this dude's great. This dude's so cool. Like, as you said, he's smooth as butter, man. He's great.
Like I've seen him live with Evolve before, and I've seen like he's so great in the ring, he's so smooth. But really, like the matchup that it took me to another level of like being his fan. I don't know if you ever saw it. It's from Lucha Underground with him as Killshot versus AR Fox. I think it's called the God of War match, but it's the bloodiest matchup they've ever put on wrestling mainstream television that you will ever see in your life, and I loved it. I loved it because he just gave himself in that whole match. And then the build up to that, them being Killshot was a character that was like in the military, and AR Fox was was a soldier in the military with them that he left behind. Like I loved Lucha Underground for the crazy storylines like that. But that match you have to see.
Do you know what? Lucha Underground's one of those things. We didn't get the El Rey network over here in the UK, and Lucha Underground never really got a good distribution deal. I was always hopeful it would end up on Netflix, because like El Rey's two big shows where they had Lucha Underground and the From Dusk Till Dawn TV series. And From Dusk Till Dawn ended up on Netflix here in the UK, like as a weekly show. And I was like, oh, brilliant, cool. Hopefully Lucha Underground. No, it never did. And then Lucha Underground got put onto Netflix, but not in the UK. And I'm like, show me this show, man. Like, just give it to me.
They're depriving you guys, man. Like, how dare they put it on Netflix, but not for you guys? What's it good?
I was very, very upset. But yeah, like when I finally get access to Lucha Underground, I'm gonna binge it, because I have seen bits and pieces, and when I did see those bits and pieces, I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. But yeah, I need to see more of it.
It honestly is, like, and it puts you, it kind of like was your first exposure to a bunch of guys that we're enjoying right now, like Ricochet, Ray Phoenix, Pentagon Jr. There's so many guys on, NXT, Raw, SmackDown, and AEW that came from Lucha Underground. It's great to watch.
Well, let's dive into your Patreon mailbag questions. If you want to submit a question to the Patreon mailbag, all you got to do is become one of our pledge hammers over at patreon.com/WrestleTalk. Do not email it to me. I will just lose it. I'm very bad at my job. First up from Austin Tussey. I'm currently sitting in the airport to visit my family as I write this. So much has changed since the last flight I took back in January. I have a mask and gloves and I'm sitting far away from anybody. Whereas last time I was meeting new people in the airport and more importantly, on my way to see Worlds Collide and the Royal Rumble, which brings me to my question. The first big show with fans back allowed in attendance, what should the main event be? For a crazy scenario like this, it has to be a match the caliber to make up for months of no wrestling. I'd love to see Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada 5 if they could somehow work that out.
Ooh, that's a really good one. I like that. I mean, I don't know how possible I don't know how possible it is, but that's a great one to have. My idea, because I've been talking about, this rivalry for a while, but I just believe that they're doing this slow burn for the reason of bringing this match out when it's in front of fans, but the Young Bucks versus FTR. Yeah. That's the one. It has to be in front of fans. Like, they can't do it right now because that's going to put butts in the seats.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking like All Out feels like it might be the first big show because they do it over that Labor Day weekend. It's Labor Day, right? Or is it Memorial?
Yeah,
Labor Day, right? Cool.
Yeah,
I get all my American holidays mixed up. But yeah, so
I got you.
thanks, man. But yeah, but they can always just push that back. Just do it in September if it's September's the time that we can start getting fans back into the arena, or even if it's just smaller version of that. But yeah, you're right. Like the Young Bucks versus FTR is a match that I have wanted to see for so long, and that is I cannot wait to see that match.
I can't wait for it either, and they're just doing a great way of like slow burning it, telling its own story, because it's a match that we wanted for so long, but we didn't know like what the story would be. And I think a lot of people thought FTR would come in and attack the Young Bucks, but they're kind of doing this whole respect storyline, and it's been great so far.
Yeah, absolutely. The notorious Aliada says, hope you guys are doing well and staying safe. You too, my friend. His booking idea is that they should bring back Shayna Baszler and Bianca Belair as a team. They've both been frustrated with the opportunities they haven't gotten so far to destroy the women's division and challenge for the tag titles. Bianca and Shayna Baszler that's an odd couple team if ever there was one.
But you got the power and the strength of Bianca Belair mixed with like the MMA background of Shayna Baszler. I want more for Shayna Baszler. Shayna Baszler wished me happy birthday this year, and ever since then she hasn't been on WWE TV. So I feel somewhat responsible for that. So please put Shayna Baszler on TV. Use our friend's idea.
He had I think I figured Vince McMahon out. I feel like someone back in the 70s and 80s told Vince that any publicity is good publicity, or there's no such thing as bad publicity, and a young Vince took that to heart, doing the things he's doing without any of the consequences or repercussions. What do you think? No, I think he's just a businessman. Like, I think this is just what, like, if like really successful business people, it's what they do. They take deals. If it makes them a lot of money, you take that deal.
I've said this for years. Like, the WWE cares about the bottom line. Like, we want them to care about what we want as fans, but that's not what they're after. They're after the bottom line and the profits. And Vince McMahon is, I've said it once, I'll say it again, the greatest of all time businessman.
Owen says, hi, WrestleTalk. Hope you're doing well. I was wondering, has Keith Lee ever done a promo where he says limitless, since that's so much part of his merch, and I don't think I've ever heard him say it in a promo. When he gets called up to the main roster, how long do you think before Vince McMahon turns that into his catchphrase? I give it 2 weeks. Thank you for continuing to produce fantastic content. He must have done at some point.
I've heard him say like he's limitless before. Yeah. I just feel like they're just trying to like mix him up. He doesn't have to only say that in NXT, but he's probably right. He or she's probably right. They're gonna just have him push it to a head on the main roster.
Dwayne the Gronk Johnson says, I just watched Adam's booking video for Bobby Lashley over on Parts Fun Known. Go check that out. And funnily enough, I booked the exact same storyline on my Universe mode on 2K19 a couple of months back. It made me want to ask you guys, has there ever been a time where you were just playing and joking around about a storyline or a match that actually ended up being booked? I think I did once say the dark timeline of 2020, obviously, pre the actual dark timeline that we got, was that Goldberg wins the Universal title, so we get Spear versus Spear at WrestleMania, which, we nearly did.
It was much better done in your universe than it was in this one. I think it was WWE 12 in the story mode. I made CM Punk go after the Streak, and then the following year it was CM Punk versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 29. So. And my best friend, Steve Stash, once made a tag team, I think it was in WWE 11, of Evan Bourne and Kofi Kingston, and he called them Air Boom. And then months later, they became Air Boom on WWE TV. That was like the mind-blowing moment of my life.
Yeah, on the old EWR games, like the text-based management system games where you book shows and like you hire in wrestlers and stuff like that, which I attribute to the fact that I didn't do particularly well at university because I spent more time making TNA the biggest promotion in the world. But I always used to hire Jody Fleisch and Johnny Storm, who were like British wrestlers sort of from the early 2000s, and always called them the British Invasion as their tag team name. And then a few years later, TNA had a team called British Invasion. It was just with Nick Aldis and Doug Williams instead.
He was like, you chose the wrong guy.
Nick Corvello says, hey, Luke, an honorary WrestleTalk podcast guest. I hope you're doing well. It's interesting lately to see which new guest pops up each week. I can only see my mailbag question that was late for 2 weeks ago, including my own, was skipped over. Which is fine in case they were part of my message was obsolete over the progress that was made in AEW's women's division. However, I still want to address Laurie's answer to my question from 3 weeks back on who will be the first woman to defect from AEW to WWE. Laurie said Britt Baker due to the exposure factor and Adam Cole, both good reasons, but it does need to be stated that from Britt's own words, she's happy being both a real dentist and a pro wrestler, and if she went to WWE, she would have to give up her dentistry career. I'd only see her defecting if she went all in on pro wrestling. I just feel like the record needed to be set straight on that. There you go. Aaron Ryan says, been a patron for a while now. I just wanted to ask my first question. Would you prefer to see the women's division be one, having Sasha beat Asuka at the horror show at Extreme Rules, then facing Bayley at the greatest party of the SummerSlam to make an undisputed women's champion? I have a feel that one champion across the two shows will help the loss of Becky and Charlotte. Maybe introducing a mid-card title division can be more beneficial for the women's division, as it would help elevate underutilized stars and can maybe lead to more meaningful multi-women matches instead of a pointless battle royal. Keep providing consistent entertainment, and most of all, keep being boss. This comes up a lot. Like, I've never really been into the idea of just merging the women's divisions together, in the same way that I've never really been into the idea of just having them on one show, because it makes it feel like a bit of a gimmick. But I don't know. What do you think?
I think that this was an idea that they probably thought about or tossed around with at WrestleMania 35 when Becky won both titles. I just think that it's not feasible because there's so many women on their roster that if you just combined all the two, there's going to be so many women that aren't doing anything. We already have two different titles, the Raw Women's title and the SmackDown Women's title. And like we've just said before, Bianca Belair is not on TV. Shayna Baszler is not on TV. Ruby Riott is not, capitalized on the way she should have when she returned. I love the push of the Iconics. The Iconics are somebody that they seem to be getting behind, but they just need to get behind more of these ladies and create more stories. I feel like they're doing it little by little with like stuff like the Lana and Natalya partnership, but they just need to do it more. They need to do it with all the ladies. Where has Naomi been? Where has Carmella been? There's so many ladies that are just not on TV that I feel that combining both titles is just going to make them lose sight of so many others.
Yeah, I don't think combining the two is going to fix the problem of them getting on TV. As you say, if anything, it might actually make it worse for them.
Yeah.
And I don't think just introducing more titles is the answer either. I don't know what the answer is. It's making better stories, I guess. But yeah,
Exactly. Just give them something. We've seen on like even like NXT and AEW, they kind of have like they give something for everybody. Like on NXT last night, Bronson Reed, he just jobbed out to Karrion Kross a couple of weeks ago, but now he's already in his new story. He's forming a partnership with Leon Ruff. That's something. That's something.
Mhm.
Like you have to give them something to work with. You can't just say, "Oh, we have nothing for Shayna Baszler, the 2-time longest reigning NXT Women's Champion of all time."
Chris Gardner, very quick question. Do you think the reason Bray isn't doing the Fiend stuff right now could be something to do with the fact that the optics of him doing the mandible claw on someone in the current climate would be a little bit terrible? Thank you, Jam That Jam. I mean, he's wearing a glove at least.
I thought that was the key. Britt Baker puts on her glove when she does her lockjaw. The Fiend, he's already coming equipped with gloves. So
and he's wearing a mask.
Yeah, exactly. He's covering up. He is safe.
Bobby Ross says, howdy to all of you today. My question is, this is a very interesting question. This one really jumped out to me. Do you think... Oh, I can't wait to read this. Do you think CM Punk versus John Cena at Money in the Bank 2011 is overrated? Maybe it's a thing you have to watch live to understand, but for me, the match seemed kind of botchy and a bit scrambled together as if improvised. Of course, legendary atmosphere is incredible, but I don't think that carries the match into the greatest of all time territory some people think. I'd really love to get your thoughts on this, Bobby. Wow.
That's a hot take.
That is a spicy hot take. And one I really disagree with. It's
I can see his points though, because that was one of the things that I think caught me by surprise when it did get the critical acclaim that it got, like the 5-star rating from Uncle Dave Meltzer and the Wrestling Observer. I was like, the match there was a couple of mistimed spots, but the more I've watched it back over the years, that adds to it. It's a level of realism in the fact that there's mistimed spots. Like, it doesn't feel so rehearsed. Like, I watch back Macho Man versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, one of the greatest matches in WrestleMania history, but I know that beat for beat, Ricky Dragon Steamboat and Macho Man Randy Savage practiced this match. They had a number for each spot in the match, so it feels like kind of rehearsed watching it back. This one, I don't feel that. I feel a level of realism. The atmosphere is amazing, and yes, it's well deserved of its GOAT status among a lot of fans.
And I think, Ollie and I reviewed Money in the Bank 2011. I think it was the very first Patreon podcast that we did. And in that, we talked about how, it is quite botchy in places. But it's the one of the only times I can recall when like moves get botched and I'm like, I don't care. This is still the greatest match I've ever seen. Like one of the greatest things I've ever seen. Part of that is the atmosphere of the crowd. But like I think from what I get from Bobby's sort of message there is that he wasn't watching wrestling at that time. And I do think that does help, like even watching it in retrospect, because it transports you back to that time when you were watching that. Like I remember that summer very, very vividly. I remember that pipe bomb very, very vividly. And I can't say that for a lot of wrestling moments. Like you'd be like, oh, when was this match? You'd be like, oh God, it was this, maybe this year or something like that. If you watch Quizlemania, I'm quite poor at it sometimes. But like Money in the Bank 2011, that is one I remember very, very well. So yeah, like I think that possibly does play into it. But you're right, it is slightly botchy, but no way, I don't care. Like I just don't care.
I think it's most of all is because it's one of our like big memories of wrestling being huge at a time when we're adults, and that's rare. That's rare. Like you brought up, I love the thing that you said with Denise about 2000 being your favorite year ever, because that's my favorite year, because that's when I remember wrestling was the biggest thing ever. Like literally, if you went to school and you didn't see Monday Night Raw, you might as well have not gone to school because you had nothing to talk about. You had nothing to talk about. It didn't matter if you were a girl or a boy. Everyone had to watch Monday Night Raw because in 2000 it was the hottest thing. And I remember in 2011 I had just got my like first, like one of my first apartments, like 2 years into my first apartment, and people in my building were like, "Oh, yo, you're the guy that always wears the wrestling shirts. You heard about CM Punk? Yo, like showing me the video like on YouTube. Like, yo, you saw CM Punk? He went off on Raw last night." I'm like, I never knew you even watched wrestling. He was like, I used to watch it, but man, yo, I'm gonna watch it again. Like, it became the hot thing again, and I think that's why if you watch it back, you're able to like revisit that, and you still have that nostalgia feel. But like I just said, when I watched Macho Man and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat from 1987, I was born in 1988. I can't relive it. I can't go back and relive that time. So it's kind of jarring. Like it's off-putting. So I can get what he's saying.
Oh no, totally. You're repping 2000 behind you with that Heat logo. Like that was, I got it for free on Channel 4, man, in 2000.
Awesome. It was on MTV here. Like that was the coolest thing. Like MTV was the hottest thing in like 1999, 2000 for me, with like Eminem, Britney Spears, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, and then Sunday Night Heat comes on MTV. I'm like, this is so cool.
Where else are you going to see Kai and Tai feud with the Headbangers? Flaming Live says, question I have today is Hulk Hogan coming back for one final match versus Vince McMahon. Personally, I don't see this being a problem, but I would rather see some NXT upstart like Gargano, Lee, or Cole have a 5-minute squash match against Hogan to retire him. Who should put Hogan out to pasture, in your opinion? I feel like I think that's kind of been done now. Like, I think we had Hogan's last match in TNA. Like, I don't know if I mean, it'll be at a Saudi show, but then it will probably be a sort of another nostalgia match pitting him against like Triple H or something, or, Goldberg or whatever. I don't know. I don't think we need to see another Hulk Hogan match, particularly not against Vince McMahon at this point.
I don't want to see any other Vince McMahon match ever since WrestleMania 26 and his matchup with Bret the Hitman Hart. And I think this that Hulk Hogan scenario might be worse than that. So no, I don't think. I think we're past that time where we wanted to see Hogan in the ring. But if it was to happen in this hypothetical scenario, John Cena.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, if it can't be Steve Austin, it better be John Cena. Yeah, you're absolutely right. He also adds in as well, my suggestion for the WrestleTalk Extra podcast pay-per-view. I went through your guys' archives and found that your very first review was Money in the Bank 2015 or 2016, so why not put a stop to anything after that pay-per-view, so there's no repeating of pay-per-views you've already done. Much love, Jam That Gem. That rule is there. We say try not to suggest things we've already reviewed, whether that be in our free feed archive or anything that we've done in the podcast archive. Do you not remember, Flaming Clive, the controversy over All In winning last year, and people got really annoyed because Ollie and Laurie did a small review of it? I didn't get to watch that again. I really wanted to watch that show. I had to do something else instead.
They took it away from you.
They did. Because fun fact, people, I don't know if you don't listen to the podcast, you won't have heard this. I've never seen All In. What? I was on my honeymoon when All In happens, so I wasn't watching wrestling. I was on my honeymoon, and when I got back and I went straight into work, I'm catching up on all the stuff that I've never seen it. I've only seen a handful of matches. I saw Kenny versus Penta and the main event. That's all I've seen.
So you've never seen Cody versus Nick Aldis?
Never seen it.
Wow.
And this is why SP3, I wanted us to do All In last year. This is why I wanted to do that show, and it got taken away from me.
Robbed. And funny enough, to bring it all together with the podcast guest, I was actually sitting right next to Alex at All In.
Oh, really?
Yes. I was right next to the Queen of the Ring at All In. We were marking out. We were singing the Kenny Omega song. Oh, 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 oh. Yes, she into my microphone, I into her microphone. It was a great time. Great. All In is the greatest event that I've ever been live for, ever.
Oh, maybe I'll watch it now. Maybe this will be the year. I should have used lockdown to watch some of this. Irakli with a very short question. Will Raw have 1 million or less viewers this year? I don't know if I can see it going below 1 million, but 1.6 this month or this past Monday is not great. But yeah, I could see maybe getting to below 1.5, but I don't know if I can see it going below 1 million.
No, I don't think Raw would ever go below 1 million. Like 1.4, 1.5, I think is going to be the bottom out for them. but they're in like a hard time right now. Like they're just, and funny enough, the things that work is nostalgia. So we're gonna see probably plenty more nostalgia coming up for Monday Night Raw.
Exactly. There'll be some Raw reunion that they'll promote, or and I did say on a couple of weeks ago, we're just 3 weeks away from a Steve Austin return. Like it's
or a McMahon as an authority figure.
Oh, there it is. Bring back the authority. That's what I say. Dylan from Cork. I recently subscribed to Impact Plus. I've got to say, I'm really excited for Slammiversary and the potential debuts and returns that may occur at that show. Yeah, it's becoming a stacked old show. That great card, top to bottom already. But like, I mean, EC3 is winning the title. Surely it's EC3's the mystery man, and he's winning.
You think so?
Oh yeah, I think it's going to be EC3.
I'm like very intrigued by this. Like I've been a big fan of Impact for the past 2 years since they had like started their like rebranding. I feel like they haven't had a bad pay-per-view since then, since 2018, and they've just been on a roll. They've had, you know, some down points. You know, the recent thing with Tessa has been a down point for them, but they have kind of used that in their favor and created a great buzz going into the show, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, do you know what I'm really stoked for is the North versus Callahan and Shamrock.
Like, I am stoked for the North winning and the Good Brothers coming out and attacking them to set up that feud, because I feel like that feud is going to be huge.
There you go. You heard it here first. Anyway, Dylan's question is, I didn't watch TNA from 2006 to 2009. Sorry, I did watch TNA from 2006 to 2009. Kind of dropped off a bit after that. I feel like I've forgotten about a lot of the shows that happened during that period. What are some of the classic TNA pay-per-views that you would recommend? Doesn't have to be from that period I mentioned previously. Take Care, I Love You, Goodbye. Excellent question. Because a lot of like the early day TNA pay-per-views, so it's like from, you know, Victory Road 05 or whatever it was, sort of onwards to about 2009. A lot of them they're not great cards, but there's some great matches on them. So like, you know, the Victory Road, they always had like really pants main events because it would be Jeff Jarrett versus someone in a very boring main event. But you always had a kick-ass like X Division match or a really great X Division opener or like a really exciting 6-man tag to start the show. So I'm going to go to bat for Slammiversary 06. I think it's 06. I'm going to quickly Google this now just so I'm not getting this wrong. I think it's the one where Raven wins the title. Spoilers. But
Maybe, I think that might be 2005.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right because I just Googled it then. Yeah, I think you're right. So it's so we made Victory Road 2004 then. Man, wow. I'm really old. Yeah, so yeah, Raven wins the King of the Mountain in 2005. You got Daniels versus Chris Sabian, America's Most Wanted versus 3 Live Crew, Samoa Joe versus Sanjay Dutt, the Naturals versus Team Canada. See, but this is again, there's like a lot of stuff on there that's not great. But you also have an X Division 6-way that I very much remember: Shark Boy, Amazing Red, Delirious, Elix Skipper, Jarrell Clark, and Zach Gowen.
Wow, that sounds like fun.
And it is fun. It's only 6 minutes, but it's very fun.
He's like, it's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. Oh yeah.
If I could pick, like, I think like that's the reason I knew that it was 2005 that Raven won the title, is because probably my favorite TNA pay-per-view is Unbreakable 2005, where Raven defended the title against Rhino, and it was a throwback to their match, their hardcore title match in 2001. So that was a great match. But of course, everyone remembers this pay-per-view for the main event: Samoa Joe versus AJ Styles versus Christopher Daniels, the only 5-star match in TNA history. That broke the internet for me. Like, that was when I was like, oh, okay. I was at a time where I was a teenager and wrestling wasn't the coolest thing, especially like watching WWE, but you had Ring of Honor and you had TNA like creating this buzz around the wrestling community. And that's when I was like, okay, I got to pay attention again. This is getting good.
I should have known it was 2005. That's my technically my second first year of university. And I was getting TNA DVDs. I was buying them off of bootleg DVD copies of the TNA pay-per-views after they happened. Like a day after the pay-per-view were out, I go onto eBay, I can find a bootleg DVD copy of it and get it sent to me in the mail so I can finally watch this show. But a lot of those shows, particularly that Unbreakable Triple Threat, which is actually we reviewed in our Patreon archives. You can go check that out then. What do we got next? Kevin says, since WrestleTalk has entered the guest host era, who's your favorite guest host from the 2009-2010? If you even have one, I won't judge you if you don't. Bob Barker is the funniest one, but I also enjoyed Stone Cold hosting the contract signing for the greatest WrestleMania match ever, Bret Hart versus Vince McMahon. Ooh, Kevin. Have a nice day. Keep jamming that jam. Yeah, that guest host era was pretty bad.
It was rough. I kind of like I have to say, like, the one that I remember the most for being so bad, because I was such a big fan at the time too, was Jeremy Piven.
Summerfest.
I'm a huge Entourage fan, and Ari Gold on Entourage is the greatest character in TV history. You could debate me on that at True Hill Heat. But when he came on Monday Night Raw, I was excited for it, and then that Summerfest, I was like, Jeremy, why didn't you do your research? But if we're talking about like quality guest host during that era, I would have to say Bret the Hitman Hart on the January 4th, 2010 episode, because that was hyped up, that was exciting, and you wanted to see that episode of Raw.
Oh yeah, I've told the story before, but I had that and Impact on at the same time. It's the only time I've ever watched a show, like two shows at the same time, and it was very difficult to do. But yeah, I mean, Bob Barker is the right answer. Like, he was the best guest host that they had. The only one that really I remember is Rob Zombie, and that's because I really like Rob Zombie, and I was just excited for him to be on Raw. And I think he had a segment with Edge being like, Edge was the heel, and he was like, I can't believe I gave you my entrance music, or I gave you your entrance music. You used my song and you're rubbish.
Well, were you disappointed he didn't get to perform that song? That's one of my favorite Edge themes. So I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, anytime I can see Rob Zombie live is a good day. Callum, do you think WWE are going to promote Adam Cole to the main roster with the rest of the Undisputed Era? Or is it just Cole on his own? I can see him with that. I can see the group going up.
I think he works best, and I think that WWE, they're not that confident in those smaller heels. They need those heaters, and this guy comes equipped with 2 to 3 extra heaters for him to get offense on the Drew McIntyres of the world. So I think that Undisputed Era as a unit needs to get called up.
Marcus Campbell, is WWE Battlegrounds the solution to WWE's gaming problem? Okay, so I'm not that into the idea of Battlegrounds. I'm sure it's going to be fun, but I was instantly put off when they released the trailer for it, and it was like, there's a pre-order bonus, and if you get this exclusive ultra whoop-de-doo bonus, you get these extra characters. But the thing that really tipped me over the edge of being like, ooh, I don't know about this, is that getting the super whoop-de-doo ultra bonus, you get 1,100 coins. And I'm like, oh no, this is a mobile game. This is a mobile game we're paying a premium price for. This is not a good thing at all.
No, that's what always turned me off about the card game. And I like the card game. Card game is cool, but I was like, I don't want to pay one price and then have to keep paying more and more to keep playing the game. But Battleground, it reminds me a lot of WWE All-Stars,
yeah,
in a way, but mixed with, like, what was the other game? The game where they were like Mortal Kombat characters and they would fight like that.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
That was a mobile game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was like Legends or something.
Exactly, like that. It's like mix of those two worlds like combined together. So it might be fun for the people that like mobile games. I'm not really that person, so I'm not into it. I just want them to fix WWE 2K, honestly.
So since Evil Luno tweeted out that he wants AEW Wacky Races, also I've been thinking is about like what I want now is a karting game. I want a wrestling kart game.
That would be so much fun. Imagine like Dark Order throwing mass at people.
RLT Sandwich said, that's it. I'm doing it. No one can stop me. I'm calling it right now. WrestleMania 37 will be the end of the streak. What streak, you ask? I'm talking about the tragic, 0-5 drought for none other than Sasha Banks. She lost the triple threat at 32, the fatal four-way at 33, the battle royal at 34, the four-way tag match at 35, and the fatal five-way at 36. Mark my words, WrestleMania 37 will be Sasha Banks' first victory on the grandest stage of them all, although I'm not anywhere near as confident about her streak of non-single match ending. Oh, that's a rough streak for Banks there.
Oh man, but that's like prototypical of her main roster run. We went through so many years of her not being able to get one title defense. I think that's why we're so happy, and we haven't pulled out the Charlotte Flair complaint about seeing her on every TV show, because we're like, finally Sasha, like, thank you. Yes, we'll see her on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah.
Put her on as many segments as you possibly can.
Exactly.
Alex Kirkman, what are your actual thoughts on Pritchard as a booker? As I'm getting mixed signals from you guys. Can't make my mind up whether you like him or not. Secondly, for Luke, as you use the word smeg all the time, I assume you're a Red Dwarf fan. What's the best series and why is it 6? I mean, yeah, 6 is the best series of Red Dwarf. Although I love that first series, the simplicity of the first series of just the 3 of them. But anyway, that's another conversation for another time. But yes, Red Dwarf's great show. Pritchard. So I don't like his podcast. I think it depends on the subject matter. I think sometimes it can be quite good, but like it went through a period of time where it just became Pritchard does impressions and they can get quite annoying at times. I think he also it's very much his version of events. I think a lot of people take it as gospel, where it's very clear this is just like his version of events. The kicker for that for me was when they brought up the Stephanie McMahon, Randy Savage story, and he was like, "I've never heard that story." I'm like, "BS, you've never heard the story." Bull, mate. It's his version of events, and that's absolutely fine. As a booker, I don't know. It's just he knows what Vince likes. And I've kind of been enjoying Raw for the last 3 weeks. I think he's been on some pretty good shows. I'm just not really into the stories at the moment on Raw, apart from the Sasha Banks Asuka stuff. So yeah, like I don't know. Maybe the reason why you're getting mixed signals from me about Pritchard is because I think I'm not 100% sure on myself on really how I feel about Pritchard as a booker.
And I think that has to do a lot with Pritchard's style. I think Pritchard, one thing that I've gotten, I've just really like discovered his podcast like this year or late last year, and I've like gone through the archives. And you're right, a lot of it has divulged into him doing impressions and complaining about Dave Meltzer. That's the gist of a lot of his shows. Like, Dave Meltzer said this. Oh, that didn't happen. And then 5 minutes later, yeah, that's exactly what happened. But he didn't tell it. No. It's like, come on, Bruce, like, calm down. So like Bruce knows exactly what us as fans want, and he knows what's going to be entertaining. At the same time, what we want and what Vince McMahon wants are sometimes two different things. But Bruce also knows what Vince wants. So sometimes he's trying to give it a little bit of both. He's trying to give Vince the Jeff Hardy and Sheamus storyline, and he's trying to give us the push of Bayley and Sasha Banks. So he's found that good kind of balance on both shows, honestly. The last like 2 or 3 weeks, SmackDown and Raw have been not as bad as they were like a few months ago. Like, they've actually gotten consistent. So I'm very happy right now with Bruce, but that happiness may disappear this Friday when I watch SmackDown.
Remember when NXT UK did their shows at the Royal Albert Hall, me and Ollie went to them, and we were just sat there, and there was someone down in the front row that had an FDM t-shirt, and Ollie turned to me, was like, "What the hell's FDM?" And I told him what it meant, and he went, "Oh God, that's awful." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's basically what the podcast is." We went to the Fight Forever show in London, and part of that, where they had a wrestling night, but they also had Bruce and Conrad doing a live something to wrestle after the show. And Bruce told this story, and it was when I realized, like, oh, maybe this, like, Bruce's story is just like, I'm not the right audience for this story. But he told the story about how Shane McMahon, as a teenager, wanted to get his ear pierced, and Vince wouldn't let him. So Shane decided to prank Vince by having a fake earring on to like, so he walks into the kitchen, Bruce is there, the booking team are there, and Shane walks in as this teenager with his earring and being like, hey dad, look what I did, and everyone's laughing and chuckling and stuff, and he takes that into fake. The way that Bruce tells this story is that Vince then freaked out, grabbed Shane and threw him onto the kitchen counter, grabbed a knife and threatened to stab him in the ear and be like, you want to get your ear pierced? You want to get your ear pierced? The crowd listening to this are in fits of laughter, and Bruce is laughing and Conrad is laughing. I'm like, this doesn't sound like a nice thing. This sounds horrible.
This sounds very threatening. This sounds like child abuse. Like, what?
It was me, Ollie, and Laurie were just standing at the wall like this. What?
I know you didn't card the people that were laughing and dying of fits in the crowd, but I'm pretty sure they were above the age of 50.
Oh, yeah. Adam Southfield says, hi, Luke, and this week's co-host. My flatmate, Andel, and my are regular listeners, but she's got a question for you. If you could take any wrestlers from any company from any point in time and put them in any match type of your choice, barring Royal Rumbles and Battle Royals, what would you pick? Many thanks, Adam and Andel. Do you know what I would like to see? I would have liked to. So I'm going to go like WCW. I'm going to go WCW 1997-ish. I'd have loved to have seen like 1998. I'd have loved to have seen like an NWO or, versus WCW, like Hell in a Cell type match. Like I know they had their war games and stuff, but seeing like Hogan Sting in a Hell in a Cell, I think would have been really cool. I think that would have been pretty rad.
That would have been the perfect blow-off for Starrcade 1997.
No, we need the screwy ref job.
That sounds much better than what they did. I would go 2015 New Japan, Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Vader.
Ooh, wow.
The one of the best underdog baby faces of all time versus my favorite monster heel. Like that was the first monster heel I ever discovered as a kid, and I was scared to death of Big Van Vader. So, and I'm talking about the Vader from WCW. I'm talking about Big Van Vader, not the man they call Vader from WWE.
Yeah. I'm just a fat piece of ass. Poor Vader.
Poor guy.
The Anomaly, CJ Warren, says, jam that jamming jam, Pledgehammers. Thanks for backing me up about Charlotte last week. My pal had to eat his words and it made my week. Simply put, who is the best all-round female talent globally based on ring work, character, promo skills, etc.? Thank you. That is... I mean, maybe it seems like a really basic bitch answer, but I think it's Asuka. Like, I just think Asuka's... A once in a lifetime, a once in a generation talent that can do it all. I think she just gets it.
Yeah, like I have to agree with you. Like I can't. There's nothing bad about Asuka's game. Like she has been able to speak the Japanese language and be one of the best promos in the number one American wrestling promotion. So. She just gets it as a character. She gets in the ring. Her match a couple of weeks ago with Charlotte was one of my favorite like women's matches of 2020. Like I love that match. Asuka just gets it all. But the first person I thought of was the person I've been saying for years before she came to WWE. So I'm glad she's getting the recognition that she's getting right now, and that's Io Shirai. Io Shirai has been the best pound for pound in-ring performer, one of the best in the world for years, and I feel she's always been the best women's wrestler for the last couple of years, and she's been able to prove it now in NXT. So I've been really enjoying her run.
The first Io Shirai match I saw was her against Meiko Satomura, and it was just like it was for Sendai Girls, and it was nuts because Meiko's awesome. She's so great. And
I loved her run in the Mae Young Classic. That was the best thing about that second Mae Young Classic was Meiko Satomura's run.
Yeah, so great. Rockstar Dougal, Luke, you use the phrase "a little from column A, a little from column B." Do you use it because Grandpa Simpson used it? I've taken to answering the phone saying "ahoy hoy" because of Mr. Burns. No, it's not just from The Simpsons, but I've always liked the column. I've always liked the phrase "little from column A, little from column B." It's also in Aladdin in the "Friend Like Me" song.
Yes.
But yeah, like I listen to Talking Simpsons a lot, and they open up the show being like, "Ahoy hoy, or welcome to Talking Simpsons." And we nearly got ahoy as our like before it because hello, it was ahoy.
There you go. Connections.
And finally from Abharam, who says, "Hey Luke and the other one, hope you guys are doing great. Before my question, I just wanted to say the WrestleTalk interviews channel is really good, and I've been binge watching those right now. I hope they come out as a podcast eventually. They certainly will. Becky, Charlotte, and Roman are gone for now. In a few months' time, Seth will be gone too. What do you think happens to WWE once they're all gone? The roster is annoyingly deep and talented, but not many people are potential main eventers. From what I can tell, they've got Asuka, Bayley, Sasha, AJ Styles, and Drew who can be in the main event." That's from Abraham. I think there's more than just those names. Certainly, we talked about Riddle earlier and Daniels, and Bryan Danielson. Listen to me, Daniel Bryan.
That's the Daniel Bryan I remember.
Crikey. Trying to sound like a proper market. I knew his name before then. Daniel Bryan, come on. But yeah, I think they've got quite a lot of like if Seth does go, and there was always potential that he could be, going. There was reports that he's going to take time off with, Becky's going to give birth at some point, and Seth's going to want to take some time off to spend time with that kid, as quite rightly so as well. But yeah, but I think WWE don't have a main event problem at the moment. I don't think. What they have is a main event heel problem. I would certainly say, Drew on Raw is lacking in main event heels. Randy's the only guy that feels like a true main event heel. Dolph wasn't the original plan. Jinder Mahal was the plan. Jinder doesn't feel like a main event guy. Neither does Dolph. So it's only Randy. So it's all about building up those heels to feel like main event heels.
Yeah, because they're doing a lot of the work now when they should have been doing it months ago. Like a guy like Bobby Lashley, who was basically just built up to lose to Drew when he could have been built up for months before that. And then there's guys like on the undercard that had momentum that kind of have lost it. Like Aleister Black was undefeated in one-on-one matches, and now he's just making the save for everybody. Apparently, he doesn't have his own problems, his own issues. He has to get involved in everybody else's business. It's like it does get you kind of scared when people leave. You're like, where are all the other stars? But I definitely agree with you. They're lacking main event heels, especially on Raw. And Randy Orton, Seth Rollins, after that, it's a huge drop off to the next heel. And they had people like Andrade and that crew and Angel Garza, and they used that to big up Drew McIntyre when they shouldn't have. They shouldn't have used a stable that they were just kind of getting momentum behind to job out to the WWE champion, because that's a feud that they could have went back to, because Andrade is the person that Drew lost the NXT championship to.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree with you. But that is all we've got time for on this edition of the WrestleTalk podcast. SP3, thank you so much for joining me this week. Where can people find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter machine, Instagram, as well as Facebook at True Heel Heat. You can see it right down over here. And you can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/True Heel Heat. Like I said, we're always putting out daily content, but I'm very happy to be on the WrestleTalk podcast with Luke. Luke is an inspiration. Ali, all you guys, your channel is one of the inspirations for our channel. So I am very honored to be on here with you guys.
Thank you so much, man, for those kind words. And yeah, thank you for joining us. I hope we can do this again. But for now, please click the videos that appeared on screen to catch up with more awesome WrestleTalk things, and this little button here or over there that will subscribe you to True Heel Heat. Go and subscribe to that channel right now. Thank you all so much. Take care. I love you. Goodbye.
Bye.